Inspiration. One can pick it out of the air because it's always there. The creative sparkle of inspiration, owned only by total creation. Even the dull moments transcend the lull in between, giving room to a special moving, swing and lean. Who delves into untrodden spaces, bringing joy to many places. Music knows no name of beauty, rather ventures many eons of duty, spreading truths, though often hid by many who think, yet never did. And because it's always there, one can pick it out of the air. The creative sparkle of inspiration, owned only by total creation. Inspiration. I don't have a framework to compose from. I just compose. And when it stops, that's the end of that section. I have some sections like 4 bars long. That's all it was, so I leave it there and then the next section. I don't push it. There comes a point where you realize that's it. And there's some things I can go on and on and on. If you could capture the essence of a melody and keep saying the melody, even if you do that, as time goes on, it changes a bit. So the thing is to try to capture the melody and keep the melody and get as quick as I can to an instrument that I can, like a piano or something, to write it down. Because even if I memorize it, if I melody, it's going to have a tendency to change. This is the thing about melodies. And the other fact about it, if I like the melody and I want to edit the melody while I'm singing it, I mean, it's probably when I get home, I don't have a melody. Sometimes I hum a melody, sometimes it has always to do with the melody. I do this all the time. When I was doing it often, then it becomes normal. I can just pick a pitch and go from there. I can't do that now, so I have to hum it. And if I have something like Unfortunately, I never think about the telephone, something that I can record it on. Then when I get home, I can listen to it and copy it down from the instrument. It's just for me to, just what I do, just part of my life. But some melodies come that I say, wow, that strikes me. That could be something that I could share. But meaning, when I do that, I have to go home and work on this thing. It's not like, okay, there it is. Inspiration is done. A lot of work might go into actually make it be really done. Well, actually, the best would be a piano, which I don't have. So I have a Casio, the first Casio computer. I bought it in 1970 something. Whatever I put on it, it will play. And the sound is terrible, of course. And I have a melodica, which is a keyboard 3.5 octaves. With the melodica, I can hold the note and blow it like a horn, So, most of it is imagination. The most fascinating thing about composing is to imagine something that worked. You imagine it, that's the sound. You can imagine the sound and you can capture it. And I've never completed a study in composition, fortunately, because in composition there's concepts and stuff like that, which is okay, But I look at it as the science of sound. I learned how to mix sound to get an effect. I can write anything down I hear. When I found out I could do that, and then I have fantasy, so I just stay in my laboratory and fantasize and put my fantasy down on paper. It's not so close. Instead of
fast?
No, not so fast. Slow. Yeah. It's easy, slower.
Yes.
One of the things that opened me up was having access to musicians who did things on the instrument that was not considered as normal. Like you take an instrument and say da dee, they say da, say da, do this kind of things. There were guys doing that. Some guys who were doing it naturally, some guys who had studied doing it. So I had the opportunity to take advantage of something like that. So there was ways of writing to give other suggestions of a pitch between a pitch. first time I did it in Miami, I said, I need something to do. So I looked, it was like houses, trees, and I did a graphic thing. I said, Then I took that and put it in the sound. Now, how I did it then, I have no idea. But I did it and made it. It was a pretty strange composition, but I put it down, you know. And at that time, I was really crude in terms of composing. I really didn't have enough, not experience, but I didn't have a wide enough spectrum. You know, even though I had this idea, my spectrum in order to implement I didn't realize how much possibilities I have for sound. The one who you are, look inside where one can see. I did formulate things from my techniques that I learned in school, and I can say about 99.99% of it was shit from the correct side. It was correct, but it sounded like shit. So nothing started sounding good until I stopped thinking about what correct is and just going by what sounds I heard. Many times I was told that I was hearing wrong. Well, that's just like saying I'm living wrong because I don't follow a book to live by that somebody wrote. So that didn't mean anything to me. I say, well, if I hear wrong and it sounds good, that's better than if it's correct and sounds like shit. The idea of a musician playing an instrument is, it should have some kind of effect that it's a part of his life, you know. So if you got that effect, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, that means I'm a bit effective because it should be. I really believe my idea of playing is if I can become the instrument and the music comes through me. That's the idea. To actually play a melody is something that's almost lost today. I mean, I get the feeling that some people play melodies like, how would you say, reading a poem with the dry, unconvincing, it's just reading it, not really delivering it. To deliver a melody is one of the highest art of a musician, which is overlooked. You know, people play a melody, I played a melody to get to improvisation. To really deliver a melody, just the melody by itself, not all the curly cues and what's supposed to be hip, is really a high art to play a melody. It's not so, it's always been a high art to deliver a melody, just the melody. There's a tendency today that when something starts sounding nice, to don't let that happen. Don't let it sound pretty. Or if it's melodic, go away from that and do something different. As if that's creative, you know. Because, you know, the word beautiful is common. I love you is common. But the tendency seems to be ugly as in, if it's ugly or kind of funky, it's cool. You know? I say, well, funky is an expression, but funky also means stink, you know. But there's a tendency today to, if anything begin to really become nice, to not let that happen, because that might be too kitschy or too common. Believe me, that's not common at all. That's the problem.
Here are like this, big format, only photography, no, not mixed technique, just a pure photography.
Nice, yeah.
Max.
Lester.
Lester. Cameron Brown.
Cameron with a beard.
Yeah. Chico.
Chico Friedman. Young Chico.
Yeah.
I still live in Austria.
All the time with Austria. I thought you were somewhere else. We went back to America. No.
No, I had
More or
this
less
place
like
in the
this.
Czech Republic.
Yeah.
I always had a place in Detroit. I still have a place in Detroit. But I have two daughters in Linz. One 13 and one 24. So that's what kept me there. I will keep my place in Linz forever.
Fine.
But, so until I get my place in Maribor,
Place in Maribor.
These are my daughters here, but these are old pictures. This is when she was 8.
I was there with Jacob, my son. He was 6, 7 years then. And Jacob fell asleep with your music. So I brought him home in an interruption and came back and told you. And he said, "Oh, good. This is the best compliment for every musician. The kid fell asleep."
This is his first child at 73. He was sitting around, say, "She's feeding the baby. What should I do?"
Nothing more. It's done. It's already done.
Oh, Steve Coleman asked me, say, "Doug, we want to know," Steve Coleman and the guy sitting around, "what do you put in a composition?" I say, "Steve, I mean, I can't really if you ask me something specific, I can tell you a story about how I come about some things. Sometimes I challenge myself to say, let me try a combination to see if I can get a sound I never heard before that's interesting. I always try to find some other sound. I'm looking for a sound, but not like for the purpose of being different, just for the variety of sound, and for composition and stuff, And if I get a composition, I want something different. I say, well, I like, this is okay, but let me see where can we take it, And sometimes things happen that I never heard before. Say, wow, that's great, it works, and I put it together, And it's like the composition makes itself somehow, So I mean, in the sense of saying, well, I did it. I mean, come on, please, it's not really. It's not like, oh, the big spirit came. I believe I believe in the soul and all that stuff, but I mean, it's like something happens, and something happening doesn't just have to do with me. You have a gift. I work my ass off. Sometimes I work my ass off and get 8 bars and work 2 weeks. Write a song in 5 minutes, be the best song I wrote. Stuff like this. So there's no formula, fortunately.
In every normal house, you should have, Oscar Wilde, Shakespeare, and also Miles or Beatles. It's necessary for every cultural house.
Spider City. In the middle of a garden existed a very large bush that was actually a city inhabited by thousands of spider people. As a human, it seemed most unusual to visit such a city, being a giant in the eyes of the population. There came a time a human found a way through scientific means to visit. After all, size is no reason to feel superior, better, or more important. It happened on a cool summer morning before the heat of the sun set in. Most interesting about this city were the various abodes of the spider people. Each abode was uniquely different, as well as the various people in both their appearance and manner of greeting. One could see all through each abode, but couldn't see the people who lived there right away. The new visitor waited a long while. Later it was found out that to wait and not enter before being invited was a wise move, for the people seemed to be more courteous. As the humans stood before the many entrances, wondering which to take, a friendly fly appeared and asked a question. Have you took upon yourself the time to go beyond the arrogance of curiosity, to observe how the culture of the spider people relates in this glorious world? The inquisitive visitor replied to the fly, who are you to question my motives, you, one so despicable as to eat dirty things? It is not for me to have to be aware of the culture of an insect, for I have been taught that humans are far above answering or even speaking with so foul, useless, and annoying beings as you. And furthermore, the mere fact I've learned how to come to a spider's size shows my humility and sensitivity to small creatures. The fly simply said goodbye and promptly flew away. The human was cordially invited to enter the abode of a large and prominent spider family. He was virtually praised in their welcoming. The visitor was so joyous that he became a very inspired meal for the family. Why would I want to know why when it's already happened? Well, sometimes I'm quite curious about things, but when it comes to music and love, I don't want to know why. I just want to know that it's there and keep going. I don't want to know why so I can do it again, because I don't want anything I ever had the same way I had it before. There's nothing I crave for that I had that I want it like it was. It's not a living reality. Even though I love my wife when I had one, I never wished to kiss her the same way. The kiss is a kiss, you know what I mean? How can I say I want to kiss like you did yesterday? Yesterday is dead, gone. There's nothing that's coming back from yesterday. But I mean, the thing is, if anyone think they're not living in the present, they really in a self-deluding situation, which we are taught to be self-deluding, you know. Because the thing is, like I said, if you believe you're going to go to heaven and hell after you die, then you stop thinking. When you believe that, you just stopped thinking and just take your beliefs to be the truth and don't even care about it. Man can destroy the earth. Man is so stupid. The earth will be here if we are not, for sure. Man would love to be able, there's some people so sick that they want to be able to have that much power. That's a small person. That person has really there's a small connection to the real life to want to be the most powerful person in the world means that must be the smallest, most poor person on the planet. But so much for that. Finally, be you. When I look at it, it's so simple, but it was not so simple. Okay, break time, I guess. Mostly, I went to school. After school, I would take long walks to the bay. And I would stay there for hours. I either go home and practice after school, after I finished high school. Before high school, I would go home and then I would walk to the bay and sit alone and watch the birds and stuff like that. Age, I learned the difference in when a person say everybody's invited downtown. When you grow up in apartheid in Florida, you know they don't mean me. So I said, well, if you disclude me, then what you say is not valid. I was not aware that they were taught that they were better than me because they were white, because my folks never talked about black and white. I didn't know, my family, my mother, we never talked about it. Then nobody ever told me, they're better than you. Better than me, you must be out of your mind. How are you better than me? You're just another person. So when I did realize that, I said, something is wrong up there. As a child, there's something, you still can see the truth a little bit before you get controlled, before you become politically correct. Basically, you become politically a correct functioning machine and robot, intellectually and psychologically and otherwise. You look at movies now where you see people having the idea of like Matrix and all that, the control population. Hey man, it's already happening. You look at the movie, it's a camouflage to the fact that you're already there. I mean, because you believe the stuff. You know, you go along with stuff. You believe anything that you're told. You have enough entertainment with the new technologies that you don't have time to think. You're not going to give yourself time to think. You just consume. Psychological consumption. So you say, oh, Matrix, they want to control everybody. Hey, guys, most of it's already there. You know, you walk around like a robot. You're not thinking for yourself. You read the newspaper and believe, man, you know this is going on? You know that? You know that those guys over there are terrorists. What? You know those guys? I decided to go the other way. I said, well, when you fight against those kind of people, that gives them strength. So I say, no, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to support you, but I'm going over in the other direction to make music for people. Music and poetry, but music, and I'm kind of straight. I believe music is the only thing that's going to save the planet. Without words, though. I don't mean lyrics. I'm talking about music. They had a list in high school what I would want to be. Musician wasn't on it. So there was something, I think I found one of something that was relatively something I would do, but not I want. There was nothing on there I wanted to do as a profession. Nothing, zero. Music was my interest. I knew I wanted to be a musician as a profession. That was the only profession I felt that I could be of any use to society and don't have to be under the strictures of the normal job of going along with the whatever the boss. I was somewhat of a teenager there, and I said, I have to find a real way, because none of this is real. This is not true. What they say is not true. It can't be true because, I mean, it's not good for people. How are we gonna go over and kill some people because he said it? He's against us. I mean, you against me? I'm in apartheid, and you telling me to go fight for you, not me. I'm fighting your shit. So I say, well, I have to find a way to re-educate myself. And I did that. I re-educated myself. I took 20 years to re-educate myself and I found out I was not wrong. Like 90% of what they were talking about was all for control. Hey, the time is what we make it. Why wait around hoping for happiness? Let's make space to do what we need. Baby, loving too. old leaves, golden brown dancers floating in circles. Who? Who could you be? From a bush or a tree? Branching hands waving, hey, to a good friend, the wise old wind. You again and again dance in circles, taking flight to prize the trips over land's green carpeted rides. What stories you could tell the old folk, simply with your wonderings of fluttering stroke. Visiting the old places, once having lived, as cleansers of the air, you carry many, many songs with yet no earthly despair. You golden brown dancers, who could you be? Still, there's no answer from the bush or the tree. You make life a dream every day to realize touch in a special way. Baby, I don't know what to do. Crazy over you.
Your voice is a lot louder than him.
Well, I can play. I'm really playing soft. I mean,
No, but I mean the thing is, if you're gonna mix it, it shouldn't be the voice way out. It's not like pop music thing, you know. That should be, it should be a little bit under.
I can play louder. I was really
Well,
playing
I mean-
really soft.
Well, I mean the thing is, if you play louder, it's gonna sound louder to me here. That's what I don't want. Then I've got like you were playing is good.
For the tuba, low mid, 2 points less, and the sub bass, 1 point less. And that would make it perhaps clearer and not so boomy.
So I think it's always necessary to educate oneself. Always. And the idea of questioning. Doubt and questioning is important. Don't just accept it because somebody said. Check it out. Question it. You don't have to question the individual. Check it out. You got enough media to check out everything. Don't just accept it because it's authority. He said it or she said. Don't accept that. Because a lot of authority people say things that are told to be said. They don't know either. They pretend to know because that's part of their job. Today we live in a world of newscasters are stars. Everybody's a star. I mean, why would you want to be a star? You know, you want to be revered by someone. I mean, that's strange. To be liked is not strange, you know. Or to not be liked is not strange, you know. It shouldn't even matter to be liked or disliked. Just being a part of the whole life. I think the whole life, not just humans, you know. Waste. To assume being 99% waste, doing and saying right at the moment is only the point of meaning in time of doing. Creativity happens only when it does. Time is not in its vocabulary. We humans have a tendency of too much labeling, a trial to fix things. Life speaks, and when we actually hear keenly, unlimited possibilities open up as creativity actually speaks sometimes. Most people want to be able to work and secure a living for themselves, you know, stuff like this. But life is not only about work. Life is about living. And most of our education is designed to make a worker and a consumer. That's not life. Life, I mean, life is a precious thing. I mean, life is being able to enjoy just being, not being revered or being special. Special to someone, it's always good. Special to someone, you know. But I mean, in terms of what our system today is geared toward being number one, being winning, competing. Well, there's something called healthy competition. I remember as a young drummer in Detroit with a drummer named Ronnie Johnson who could play circles around me technically, I mean, with one hand probably. But we would go to jam sessions. He was younger than me too. And each week, he had a concept that I had ingested from him, that I got from him. He said that, you know, I asked him, I said, well, what do you come to a jam session for? He said, the idea of being able to play the same song a different way without disturbing anything and making it work. I said, wow, that's a great idea. You know, that was the idea. And so when we came to the jam session, it would be one day he would say, you got me this day, but I'm gonna get you tomorrow. And I would say the same thing, so you got me today, I'm gonna get you tomorrow. But it was never a technical thing of who played best. Who played best was the one who really played the song better, kept it going from the beginning to the end, and it worked. And which one it worked better was the winner. I think that's it. I mean, what I found out is, if I count it, I can't play in it. But if I feel the chant, I trust myself to feel, but I learn it by the chant rather than count how many beats it is. I just learn the chant and feel the chant and don't count and just trust myself. But if I try to count it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I find it even doesn't work in 4/4 when you have to feel it. That's what the practicing is about. Learning how to feel this shit. What gave any presence to my music was Mingus. One day he came by, we were on the road, I was working with him, and I had done something at Sound River Studio in New York with 10 pieces, I think it was, 10 pieces. And I was listening to it on the cassette and figuring out how I'm gonna, what parts and this. And Mingus knocked on my door and said, what's that music? I said, well, that's some music I'm doing with Sam. He said, you wrote that? Okay, give me a tune for the band. I said, oh, wow. We did 2 songs, and the one he liked the most was Moves, and he put it on his album, and that gave me some kind of notoriety. Now, the thing about it is, a lot of people, it's my arrangement on Moves, but many people couldn't imagine that I'm the drummer who did this arrangement of my song. And so it's not the common thing to say, wait, probably Mingus arranged it, whatever, it doesn't matter. But this is what gave me any kind of presence in Europe, in the States. I mean, it was like, okay, I was on the record. But when I came to Europe, people knew about this. They recognized that this is the guy who wrote that song, you know, and then actually my career started here, you know. How many people know Charles Mingus? Heard of Charles Mingus? Well, Charles Mingus years ago wrote a song called Dizzy Profile. Obviously, it's for Dizzy Gillespie. And we played it a couple of times, but the musicians took it such a burning. He decided not to do it. So I wrote some lyrics to it with Frank Lacey singing. Not as good as me, but a little better. There was once a time a friend of mine would play a melody and there would be a song. Many used to say a crazy friend, but when he would play his trumpet sound, we all would gather round. For Dizzy made the song Bebop is his name. But misunderstanding came to turn around its meaning then. What the music said to play about, we always never knew until we heard the sound. So remember now that crazy sound, then we will begin to understand a storyline again. This is a general educational thing today when it's about the individual, the me. And the thing is, the me part is played up to be the main thing, the I, the ego, all this kind of stuff. Well, there's a good reason for that. The reason for that is if you have all me's going around, you have no groups. It's the problem even in music where you have groups where if you have 5 members of a band and everybody's thinking about me, you have not very much of a good band, even though they might be skillful. But when the thought is me and my thing, something missing in the music. And I find that a very common practice today. The delivery of music today is, I would say, is like about less than 40% of what I know that happened, say, 40 years ago. Because of the so-called technology that you can learn faster and do your own thing. I mean, you think of a person 21 years old, 22 years old, talking about doing their own thing. Okay, where's this own thing coming from? The heavens? Where's the experience? I mean, music is not techniques. Music has to do with experiences, with the different musical settings. You cannot get it in your brain and then bring it out in your feelings. So it's like a false system of education today to say you can do it fast. You don't even need a person. You can just get it on the internet. You don't need that direct contact with the teacher. And the teacher don't need direct contact with the student. So, it's like everything is dividing. So it's difficult to actually educate yourself. I feel everybody could have talent or could have talent if they want to. They want to develop it. I don't see that it's special other than the person developing it. I still relate to Einstein. Einstein was one of my first inspirations because he said that people called him a genius, and he said it was 99% work. That gave me inspiration to say, okay, I can work because I'm slow. And I feel that every person is talented. I don't think there's a person on the planet who's not talented. When lips burn from the flame of subtle paradise, thoughts of you soothe every instance of possible sensation. Touching the living heart, and I'm only a witness. What a feeling. Even millions of minds would have to be free to realize a fraction of those special moves that songs catch only glimpses of. Subtle paradise. When I see a tree, I mean, it's amazing. When you look at this, any one of these trees, big one, and you say, when they have no leaves, and you think of all the various branches and how different each branch is, and the fact that it's life there. Every season, no matter what we do, they're gonna have their leaves, unless we destroy it. And it's like, every year, it's showing you again and again, really, we don't control that. The beauty of that reality is just, it's inspiring.
Thank you.